So we're report writing today. Let's start off with a quick revision video, just reminding ourselves of newspaper reports.
This is a newspaper. Its job is to tell us about the things that are happening in the world. Newspapers always have big writing on the front page. What's the headline today? Lion eats lion timer! Oh, sorry about that. The headlines are there to grab our attention, so they're quite loud. Let's move on to the more colourful bits. What's this? Lion escapes after 10 years in a circus. The caption on this picture helps us work out what the picture's showing us and tells us a bit more about the story. Most of the pages are taken up with smaller words, and they tell us the full story. Newspapers have lots of tricks to tell stories in an interesting way, like facts and opinions, and the super useful 5 W's: who, what, why, where, and when. So, did they find the lion? No, I think it's still...
So, a few things to remember when writing your reports. If you want to, you can have a headline, keep it short and snappy, but don't spend all day thinking about this. Don't forget to quickly summarise in the first sentence what the story is about. So, Sam the Onion Man hung. Write your report in the third person and past tense. You're writing a recount. Try and keep it in chronological order as well when you're recounting events so it makes sense to the reader. Split your newspaper report into paragraphs. Same with any piece of writing. It's for clarity. It helps the reader clearly understand the information. If you want to link those paragraphs using some of the skills from last week, then it would be great to see that. If you do use quotes, which there are an abundance of in the extracts I gave you yesterday, don't forget inverted commas. There's an example there on the screen. And remember, fill your newspaper report with facts and opinion. Facts give the reader the information using the 5 W's. You've got those there in that video as a prompt. So, now we're going to think about modal verbs and degrees of possibility. So first up, here is a quick definition of modal verbs and some examples on the screen now. And a quick revision video for you.
Be beside the seaside, don't you? There is a sweet seller selling sticks of rock. Oh, they do look tasty. Oh no, here she comes, the fish monster. Oh dear, the fish monster looks hungry. She's eaten all of his rock. Looks like the fish monster is upset because the sweet seller's sign is now wrong. He needs to change the sentence because he doesn't have any more rock. He needs a modal verb. The sweet seller has changed his sign to read, "We will have rock." Will is a modal word. Modal words show when things are needed, likely, or possible. Ah, here you are again, Mr. Sweet Seller, with lots more rock. Oh, not again, fish monster. We should have rock. Should is the modal verb.
We've watched the revision videos. Let's have a discussion about how that could work in your writing. So, as I told you to do in your planning, I've picked a couple of modal verbs and added them to my key points that I made a list of. And the two modal verbs that I've chosen for now are should and must. And we're going to have a look at a couple of sentences that I've come up with and think about which modal verb would be appropriate and where we could use those in those sentences to imply this degree of possibility that reporters often use in their writing. So the first sentence we've got here, and it's linked to a point made at the start of the extract that we read, that Sam, the Onion Man, has a 50-year-old horse, even though he's only 20 years old. And I'm imagining that the people living there at this time, because of their opinions of Sam, would accuse him of being a liar. So that's the the position I've taken when I've written this sentence here. So Catherine didn't know about the Onion Man's lies. Remember, the people, although they thought that Sam, the Onion Man, was the guilty party in this turn of events, they still didn't like Catherine much. So, for that reason, I'm going to use the modal verb should. I'm going to change the meaning of this sentence slightly by using the modal verb should. I'm indicating this degree of possibility. So instead of saying, well, she didn't know about his lies, what I'm actually saying is she should have known about his lies. We're kind of putting a little bit of the blame on her as well, because that was the opinion of the people in the town at the time. They were outraged and they stopped sending their children to the schoolhouse. So we can take Catherine didn't know about the Onion Man's lies. We can put should in there. We can change it slightly so that the sentence then becomes Catherine should have known that any man claiming to own a 50-year-old donkey is a liar. I've expanded slightly as well by giving an example of the lie, the 50-year-old donkey, just to make it appear more obvious, so the person reading this are going, well, yeah, of course, she should have known that. 50-year-old donkey, how ridiculous. So you can see how it's a similar point. Catherine didn't know about the Onion Man's lies, but this degree of possibility here by putting the should in, she should have known, makes Catherine seem silly. And it will help to sort of rile up the people reading the paper, reading the report, to hold the same opinion that the reporter does. So that should used there. We can highlight that one just to show that we've used it. So Catherine should have known that any man claiming to own a 50-year-old donkey is a liar. Let's think about my next sentence. I'm going to try and use must for this one. So, he tricked her and took advantage of her kind nature. He tricked her and took advantage of her kind nature. Now, what I'm saying here is Sam has done this, and it's painting Sam in this bad light that the reporter would have done because of the beliefs of the people at that time. But it's a bit direct, it's a bit straightforward. I'm kind of going for the opposite effect here to what I did with the previous sentence. Rather than subtly implying this degree of possibility that she should have known, I now maybe want to be a little bit less direct with this statement. So instead of saying, he tricked her, he took advantage of her kind nature, I'm going to add must to that sentence, just to sort of imply my opinion a little bit more gently, just so people aren't too aware that I'm telling them how to think. So instead of he tricked her and took advantage of her kind nature, he must have tricked her and taken advantage of her kind nature. So you can see we've changed the way that the sentence is read slightly. The meaning is still the same. I'm still implying the same point, but I'm putting a little air of possibility in there. He must have done it, but it's not certain. So that's how you can use modal verbs in your writing when you're doing your newspaper article. You don't have to use them in every sentence. You can do what I've done, pick 2 or 3 and set those as your targets to use for your entire report. And just think about where's an appropriate place to put them, how it changes the meaning of the sentence, and how it gives that degree of possibility that will really persuade the reader to hold the same opinion as the person writing the report.